Hi everyone, welcome to our Arsboni's Legal Fest. My name is Panna Balic, and today we are going to talk about something that doesn't usually cross people's mind when they are thinking about a lawyer's work, and that is pro bono work. Please keep in mind that you can ask your questions anytime during the webinar by using the chat or the Q&A function, and these questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. Well, many people say that lawyers can only work for corporations or for wealthy individuals, and that there is no room for helping communities at a big law firm. Today, we're going to prove otherwise because we are here discussing this topic of pro bono work with Baker and McKenzie's two associates, Stas Kuzmiarkiewicz from the London office and Zsófia Lendvai from the Budapest office. Stas and Zsófia both work and do and manage the pro bono work of their offices. Stas is the senior pro bono associate in Baker and McKenzie's London office. He does legal counseling pro bono to UK charities and individuals, and also coordinates global pro bono projects. Zsófia is a counselor in Baker and McKenzie's Budapest office and advises primarily on intellectual property matters, and she's also a member of Baker and McKenzie's European Intellectual Property Practice Group. Stas, Zsófia, welcome to the Legal Fest. Would you like to introduce yourselves a bit further and begin your presentations?
Thanks, Panna. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. And also thank you on your perfect pronunciation of my name. I hear that very rarely, so it's nice to hear.
I actually asked my Polish flatmate how to pronounce it. I did my research.
Whatever works. So hi everyone, it's a pleasure to speak to you today. Thank you for dialing in. As Panna says, I am the Senior Associate for Pro Bono in Baker McKenzie's London office. So I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes and then I'll hand over to Zsófia and then we will have some time for Q&A and hope there's questions that you have in mind already or ones that arise as we talk. So firstly, a good place to start, I think, is what is pro bono, because maybe some of you haven't come across pro bono before or have just heard the words. In the UK, pro bono is all the work that we do for free for charities or individuals who can't afford legal advice. So pro bono has to be legal advice. It doesn't in the UK. Things like fundraising or volunteering are separate. That's called CSR, corporate social responsibility, whereas all the legal work done for free is our pro bono program. And obviously, it's not any work done for free. For example, if we are discounting our bill to a large corporate, obviously that's work for free, but that's not pro bono. Pro bono, as I say, is work for charities, or it will be work for individuals in particular areas of law that we would call access to justice areas of law. So things like housing, welfare, immigration, family law. You probably see the theme of the types of law that we would advise on. So that's what pro bono is. Very briefly about myself, just in terms of my career path. So in the UK, legal qualification happens by you go to university, you do law, and then you do a 2-year training contract at a law firm. And then you qualify into a department in that law firm. So I followed the usual route of doing 2 years qualification at a law firm. It wasn't at Baker McKenzie, it was another large law firm. And then while all of my colleagues were qualifying into departments such as corporate or banking, I was lucky enough that a role came up in the pro bono team. So I qualified straight into a pro bono team. I then stayed at that law firm. It was DLA Piper for 4 years, working in their UK pro bono team and ultimately managing their UK pro bono practice. And then came over to Baker's just over 3 years ago and have managed the pro bono work coming out of our London office. In the UK, these roles are quite rare. There's probably about 40 to 50 people in the pro bono sector in London, in the UK. So it's a small sector, but it is a growing sector, and law firms are hiring people to manage pro bono full time more and more. I'm sure Zsófia will say, less so outside of the UK. It's quite rare that you have full-time pro bono managers in offices outside of the UK. I know some firms have a handful across Europe, but it's becoming more of a thing in the UK, and hopefully will become a thing across Europe more frequently in the years to come. So that's a little bit about myself. You might be thinking, as Panna alluded to earlier, why do we do pro bono? We're a massive corporate. We just make money. That's all we do. That's not the case, because clearly not the case, because it means I have a job doing pro bono. So why do law firms do pro bono? Well, firstly, the key reason is it's the right thing to do. We as law firms are, we as lawyers are in a very privileged position in terms of the companies we work for and the resources we have access to, and it's important to share that with the communities in which we operate, and with charities and individuals who need that help and to whom it can make a huge difference. So I suppose that's another reason for doing it, is the impact that we can achieve, because as lawyers, the best thing we can do is give free legal advice, because that's what we're most skilled in. So if you see how much we, in terms of the value of our time, that giving that to charities and individuals can make a huge difference, and it's not something they'd be able to pay for if we weren't doing it pro bono. So that's that's the primary reason why we do pro bono. There's also a business case for pro bono, and it's not something we should be shy about or not talk about. It's maybe it's not the primary reason for doing pro bono, but it's a very kind of, I would say, good byproduct of it. So what do I mean by the business case for pro bono? Well, firstly, it gives an opportunity to our lawyers to get involved in a variety of law and projects and opportunities that they may not get through their commercial work. And when you work in a law firm, it's important that you have variety of work and opportunities to do different kinds of things. So it really gives opportunities to our lawyers, and that improves both the satisfaction of our lawyers, but also the skills of our lawyers. Pro bono is a great training opportunity. Whether you are starting out as a lawyer or whether you've been a lawyer for many years, you can always learn something new through a pro bono project. Our commercial clients ask a lot about pro bono these days. As you probably see, large corporates are trying to move more to a responsible, sustainable way of working and trying to promote that. So it's important that they partner or instruct law firms with similar values. So it's a good thing to present to our clients in terms of what we're doing in that space, but also to offer to our clients, so we can do pro bono with them and work together on various pro bono projects. So those, I would say, are the main reasons we do pro bono. I'm sure you could think of others, and there are many others, but those are the main ones that I was hoping to mention today. So we've talked about what pro bono is and why we do it, and then maybe the best thing to talk about is what Baker McKenzie does. I can talk about the London office and more globally. Zsófia can of course cover what the firm is doing in Budapest. Just to clarify, this is the question that often comes up. I don't do all the pro bono work myself. My job is to find other lawyers to do it and share opportunities around the firm and make sure everyone has access to interesting pro bono projects. So while I am a pro bono senior associate, I'm more of a project manager, I would say, in terms of allocating pro bono work, although I do get involved in a little bit of casework myself. So in terms of what the firm does, we kind of have a few main work streams in London. A large portion of our work, as mentioned at the start, is work for charities. So the work we do for charities is generally what we would do for our commercial clients, but for charities for free. So whether that is advising on a contract or on a piece of intellectual property or on buying or leasing a new piece of land for a new office or a shop, that's the kind of things we see a lot of. So and employment as well. Obviously, charities have a large number of employees and are often seeking employment and HR advice. So how that works is we have a pool of charities that we've been working with for a number of years. They come to myself to say that they need help with an employment contract or something like that, and I will find a lawyer to help them with that. And then they will work on it as they would with any of their commercial matters, working directly with the client to resolve that issue. So as I say, that makes up a large portion of our work, because charities have a range of legal needs. There's still companies and entities that have numerous legal needs that fortunately our expertise is often perfect for and can help them with. So that's one area of work. We often do training as well for our charity clients, so to give them a little bit more confidence and understanding to deal with these matters themselves. So for example, understanding how a contract works, or what they need to look for in a contract, or how intellectual property works. So often we'll do training for clients as well in that space. Another area of our work is our global research work. This is something we often do partner with clients on. And this is not limited to London. This is something we do across all of our offices. So most recently, we've had 3 main large research projects that are global. So one has been the Legal Atlas for Street Children. So that has been a project mapping law affecting children living on the street across the world, and creating a resource of of the laws affecting street children and their rights. So explain to them what their rights are. And that's with a view to being used by local child rights advocates, for those lobbying government, and by children themselves. So once I finish speaking, I can actually put a link in the chat to that resource in case you want to have a flick through it in your own time. Another project that we've worked in this space has been a similar comparative research project looking at laws on domestic violence across the world. So obviously, with lockdown and coronavirus in the last year, incidences of domestic violence have gone up, with people being often trapped at home with their abusers. So this was really important to create this resource. We're working with a charity called Global Rights for Women. And again, it's with a view to mapping the resources and being able to help those charities to lobby more effectively for policy and law change, to address some of the issues that have come to light more recently. And then the third project, again in a similar vein, has been looking at law affecting minority youth, groups of minority youth, their interactions with police. So off the back of the Black Lives Matter movement across the world, obviously there has been a focus on police interactions with youth. So we've again looked to map what the rights and remedies are for young people who are mistreated by the police. So that gives you a flavor of the types of project we do, and how we do that is we have teams of lawyers working on those research papers across all of our global offices. Obviously, the relevant countries will generally do their own country first. So, for example, our Vienna office may look at the Austrian law affecting street children or domestic violence, whatever it is. But then after we've done that, we don't want to stop just at the places we have offices. So what we'll do is we will do desk-based research on other jurisdictions as well, and often pull in favors from local counsel or other people we know there to help review our work. So that's a really good opportunity, and often we get clients involved in that because our commercial clients often have large groups of in-house lawyers who are interested in pro bono work and wouldn't have access to those opportunities otherwise. So when you have large numbers of lawyers that are looking for pro bono work, big research projects like that are both an impactful and effective way to get them involved across the board. So that's kind of at a charity level. In the UK, we do a fair bit of work for individuals. So we do work, for example, on death penalty cases with a charity called Amicus. So they are a UK charity, but they work with inmates on death row, primarily in Florida, or that's where our work has been. So we will often help with preparing cases for that. At the moment, we're doing, for example, a document review for an individual on death row in Florida, like I said. So that's a great opportunity for lawyers to help individuals in an area of law, which is obviously very impactful in terms of stopping someone from being executed, essentially, across the world. So that's one example. But I suppose the main part of our work for individuals in the UK is, like I said, working in the areas of access to justice, and helping individuals in areas of law where they really need it. So what we generally do is we'll partner with a charity that we know well, that we trust, and that can supervise and train our lawyers on a very particular area of law. So when we do these kind of projects, we would never try and make all of our lawyers that are involved in the projects immigration lawyers. Generally, what we would do is try and train them on one particular type of immigration application, or something like that, and then get them as experts in that area to be able to advise individuals kind of in parallel with the supervisor at the charity. So to give a few examples, we work with families applying to the EU settlement scheme. So after Brexit, people who are resident in the UK have had to apply to the EU settlement scheme. So we've helped some families do that. We have worked in with individuals who have wrongly been deducted wages from, should we say, unscrupulous employers. So helping them to reclaim what is owed for them where employers have decided not to pay them. We have worked in areas of social care, so where individuals, often with disabilities, have been given housing by the government. Often that housing has been inappropriate for disabled people. So as an easy example, it may be that we have a family where there's a wheelchair user and they've been given an apartment with a step or something like that. So it's helping them to navigate and challenge the government on those at local government level, to challenge those issues. Similarly, welfare benefits. So in the UK, for those with disabilities, there is state funding for those who can't work, for example, or have children with disabilities where they need extra help caring. However, the government are not too good at giving these out and often refuse them wrongly. So we help individuals to challenge those. And then the last project I'll just mention is our Children's Nationality project. So that's where we work with children who have been born in the UK to gain British nationality. I'm not sure what the position is in Hungary, as I'm not an expert, but in the UK, you don't get nationality by being born in the UK. If you are a foreign parent, if you're born in the UK, you generally have to live here for the first 10 years of your life without significant absences before you're entitled to apply to British citizenship. Citizenship application form is quite complex, it's quite a complex process, and these families unfortunately would probably be unable to navigate it themselves. So that's where we come in to help them with that process. And that's really rewarding work, because some of the clients I've worked with, it really is life-changing having their child registered as a British citizen. It gives access to higher education for the children when they turn 18. It means they can travel. Some of the clients I've worked with, for example, have never met their grandparents because they don't have a passport. So getting nationality gives them access to a passport and the ability to travel. It gives them access to services that are reserved only for British nationals. So, for example, help with housing and things like that. It can help their family stay in the UK because their parents are going to be carers of the individual that's now a British national. And really importantly, it removes the threat of them being deported when they turn 18, because it is much easier to deport adults than children. So by kind of confirming their status in the UK, that threat is then removed when they turn 18. So it really is, can be life-changing for young children and their families to be able to gain British citizenship. So hopefully that gives you a good flavour of the kind of things that we do in London, the mixture of work we do for charities and individuals, and the range of work that we do for all of those. So with that, my 20 minutes is up. I'm going to hand over to Zsófia to talk about the work in Budapest, and then come back for any of your questions at the end. So thank you very much for listening, and Zsófia, over to you.
Thank you, Stas. You can hear me also, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good. So thanks for introduction, Panna, I would like to add a little bit to that. As Panna said, I'm counsel with the Budapest office of Baker McKenzie, specializing in intellectual property. So I basically lead the IP group of the Budapest office. And as Stas mentioned, often pro bono work is dealing with IP. So that's also a special area where we do pro bono work. But before I tell you what the Budapest office does, I would also like to tell you why I am doing pro bono work, which maybe is also good for you when you can consider whether you are interested in doing such work or what your interest in that area could be. Thus, summarize why a law firm is doing it, and I would like to focus a little bit on the individual perspective now for a few minutes. So basically, I could summarize that I do it for selfish reasons, and with that I mean because simply helping is good. So it feels good. It's really uplifting, especially when you do commercial law, where you realize that everything is driven by money. It's just really gives you a human touch to your work at the end of the day. And by that, when I prepared for this session, I asked one of our junior associates what he thinks that law students would be interested in respect of pro bono or why. And he reminded me of the fact that when you enter university, you mostly focus on fundamental rights and human rights, because this is what you genuinely consider interesting and what you are interested to. Then with time passing by, you will learn much more about commercial law, and you will figure out that if you want to give yourself a living, not everybody is as lucky as Stas is, that he can live on pro bono. Side remark, yes, in Hungary, I am not aware of one single person who is doing pro bono as a full-time job. So it's very typical, as I am doing it as well, that you have you work as lawyer, and besides you do basically in your free time the pro bono work. So we said that passing by, you will focus much more on commercial issues. You will realize that that's what pays the rent at the end of the day. But nevertheless, you will have in your mind all the time the social engagement and where you can engage socially with your environment. And that's, of course, where you can help, and where can you help? You can help there where you have the expertise. So that's one of the reasons. And yes, we also work with charities mainly in Hungary for pro bono work. And I would like to divide the exact pro bono work into two parts. So where do we help? You can either help with your expertise, what is maybe it's not in their capacity of these charities to do the research, to do all the work in these very specialized areas such as IP. I would also mention data protection, which Stas hasn't mentioned, but which is a key area, because in the moment nowadays, especially in Europe, when you engage with people, there is always the GDPR and everybody is scared of GDPR. So that's also a very heavy area where we have, but also immigration, employment law, and all these very basic legal areas. The other possibility is to engage and to open your horizon and to leave your comfort zone. So the bigger in a law firm you work, the more specialized you will be. Meaning that you will work with a very small area of law at the end. And for example, I'm not making commercial for that, but I have no idea how I should set up a KFT, so a limited liability company. but I know the very small portions in a copyright license agreement what I have to focus on. So with time, this can be very similar type of work. So pro bono helps you if you are not asked about your very specific area, but if you want to provide additional work, it helps you to open new opportunities to see something different. And where does this come in? For example, you can help the charities in many cases, because these are charities. So where do we focus here in Hungary? We have UNICEF, for example, Children's Rights Heavily. We have Hintalovon Alapítvány, which is a foundation who is helping not only children, but young persons with their rights. And they very much focus on the rights of the children. So they don't advise the parents. They even provide advice sometimes against the parents, and they always focus on the children, and children can, and young persons can turn to them for help if they want. They have even a chat line what they operate. And they provide, or they would like to provide legal aid to those children if needed and if necessary. And there they face sometimes the problem that due to procedural rules and regulations in the Hungarian legal system, they cannot represent before the courts because they are not admitted lawyers to the bar, of course, those who have for the foundations. So therefore they need lawyers who can do that work. But this is not the type of work what you usually do because it's often very heavy. It can even be criminal law representation. But again, it helps you to leave your comfort zone, to try yourself also in a different area, and by that to help a lot people who really need that. We also have Élelmiszerbank, which is a food bank. They collect foods from food suppliers and they redistribute them to those who are in need. We have Borsóház Alapítvány, which is also helping children who have some fitting in problems, psychological or physical problems. We have been helping Budapest School. This is a foundation running a school here in Budapest. And there comes the IP heavy. We have been helping the Hungarian State Opera with certain copyright related issues. And nowadays we are helping Budapesti vonosok, so the Budapest orchestra, which is a very famous Hungarian orchestra, also where they have very specific, I mean, they especially contacted us because of the copyright work. I mean, for also a small orchestra, which is practically run by a foundation, these new copyright law challenges in the online environment, and especially with COVID, with all the shutting down, they were very much in need of that kind of help. So that's also an area where we are helping charities, foundations, or other initiatives where they contact us. We, of course, participate in the global reviews, what Stas was mentioning. So we have been submitted materials to the domestic violence global survey, the children's rights protections global survey. And for that, you also learn, of course, for your own practice. So that's again the selfish part, and maybe also the commercial approach, because the children's rights, just give you an example, also can include, for example, advertisement to children and how advertisements is allowed in your country. That's immediately an area where we are receiving also assignments from clients dealing in the online environment, that how it's possible to advertise to children. So you can use it then again, the knowledge you gain there for commercial purposes. And one additional or last aspect I would like to mention, when I said that I do it also for selfish reason, it's also important for your own profile raising and for your own networking, because usually these charities are very grateful, and they organize also events where you can meet others who have people with these charity programs, with pro bono work. And that's also immediately a connection point where you can connect with other persons, with potential clients, because these are also companies who have them very often. I mean, needless to say that UNICEF is associated with very many companies, for example. And it's always good if you can engage into a discussion with the person who might be your client as a lawyer, and you don't have to immediately pitch your own work to them, but you have a neutral topic what you can discuss. So these would have been the addition, what I wanted to say to what Stas has said, and I think we are happy to take questions if you have.
Thank you for your presentation, Zsófia and Stas. And I think we have a couple of questions. The first one is, I think it's especially for Zsófia. Does the Budapest office have a practice group on pro bono work as the London office does?
No, I try to make reference to that. We don't have a practice group. What we have, it's basically one of our colleagues who is also responsible for talent management in the office is taking lead on that together with myself. So we always have basically 1-2 persons dedicated who organize the pro bono work of the office. But it's also a very good engagement within the office, as we also do strictly work in practice groups. So in our office, we have the practice that everybody who has a good idea to support someone with a pro bono can come up with this idea, and we channel in then to the whole office. Our office is a small office compared with the London office, so everything is much more familiar. And it's easy to send an email to everyone, and who has interest in that very specific pro bono work can sign up. For example, in case of Hintalovon, as Stas said, sometimes you face with kind of works what you cannot do basically because you are not qualified. So we receive, for example, training from the foundation, so from the charity itself. So they trained us in children's rights and how you have to deal with certain issues. And only those who attended that from the office can then later advise in certain issues with respect to children's rights. So the answer to the question, no, we don't have in that sense an extra pro bono practice, but it is structured and organized also within our office. Deal with this pro bono issue. We have engagements, of course, with all our clients, and it's revisited basically once in a year, whether it's working, whether they still need us. So that's why, for example, Budapest school doesn't need us at the moment. It needed us when they established the school. But UNICEF and Hintalovon, that can be something which is evolving over the years and which always gives work.
Stas mentioned before that there are approximately 40-50 people working in the pro bono sector in the UK. Would you say that it's a smaller sector in Hungary?
I believe it is.
How many people?
Just based on Zsófia's comments there as well. I think it's pretty rare to have a full-time pro bono lawyer at a law firm in Hungary. I think Denton's may have one, but apart from that, I'm not aware of anyone else. But Zsófia, if you have any comments on that.
I wasn't even aware that Denton's had one, to be honest, but it's possible. So Denton's is also one of the big international law firms, so it's very much possible that they have. And of course, from a structure, I mean, the bigger the law firm is, the more emphasis, of course, is given on corporate social responsibility, because the more the law firm is acting as a corporate entity, basically, where it is expected from you, it's expected by the clients from you that you do such a work. The smaller the law firm is, the more effort, and I really appreciate it, the more personal effort is needed from the person who does this pro bono, because it's clearly from the 24 hours of the day, and it's clearly a decision whether I make money or whether I do it for free. I am aware of lawyers in Hungary who are one person lawyers, so a one-man show, and they still manage to do pro bono work, which is, I think, is great. But again, it's always a decision in that case.
And on that note, what do you both think, what is the main difference between doing pro bono work at a big firm or as an individual lawyer?
Zsófia, do you want to go first?
Yes, thanks. That's exactly, I think, I cannot add too much to that. In a big law firm, when we
Not sure if we may have lost Zsófia there.
I think so too. Maybe you could start answering the question while we are waiting, but I think maybe it's working now.
Yeah, I can hear you now, sorry.
Okay. I think we lost a couple of minutes before.
Oh, okay, sorry. So it's then going back. So in a big law firm, the first thing what we expect from an associate is the billable hours. And what do big law firms do? They recognize pro bono work for associates as billable hour, basically in their timesheet. So that's also an incentive for everyone in a big law firm to do billable hour. But it is to do pro bono work, but it's also, again, a decision of the big law firm to engage at first place in such issues. And in a small, and the smaller the law firm is, the more it's the question whether you do billable work when you earn money or whether you do it for free. And basically you also, I think that it's taking time from your personal time. So if you are one lawyer in your office, I mean, the decision will be whether you help on a Saturdays or whether you play with your child on the playground, so to say, and what gives you more benefit. Stas, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from a UK perspective, I think there's many things that you mentioned there which are similar. I think if you work at a big law firm, so using Baker McKenzie or DLA Piper, where I worked before as an example, you have pro bono managers there who will, people like me, who manage the practice, and it's very easy to get pro bono work, and you have a selection and you can say, I'd like to do this or I'd like to do that. So I think if the law firm is willing to invest in someone like my role to coordinate all that, it makes it a lot easier for the lawyers to get involved, which is important because the lawyers should be doing the legal work. And if you can take away the project management element of it, obviously makes it easier for them and it's easier to increase impact. At a smaller firm, I mean, it depends how small you're talking, but if you go to kind of a firm which is maybe 2 or 3 lawyers in a high street office, in the UK, they will probably do an incredible amount of pro bono and they won't get the plaudits or have, you know, fancy Zoom backgrounds to tell everyone that they do it. They will just do it as part of their job. And when they're helping, for example, a family that needs help with a family law matter, they may not charge them the full amount. They may, you know, do the first bit and then say, okay, we'll help you with this. And that's not the stories you're going to read about in the press, but the things that those people do are amazing. And it's a lot less, I suppose, structured as it would be at Baker McKenzie. I'm not saying that in a negative way. And also as well, I suppose the thing to add is if you're working in a small law firm, your skills are much more likely to match up with what individuals need. As I mentioned earlier, where we do immigration work, social welfare work, we have to partner with a charity to train our lawyers, to supervise them. It's quite a big process. If you are working in a 3-4 person office on a high street, you'll probably be an expert in criminal law or something like that. And you can just say to the individual, these are the answers to your questions. This is how we can help you if you're working on a pro bono case. Whereas because of our I think big law firms have a lack of expertise in that area. They have a lot of capacity and a lot of goodwill, and a lot of people willing to do it, but we do rely quite heavily on others to give us the expertise. So for that reason, the work that is done by smaller law firms can be a little bit more efficient, I suppose.
It's sort of like a matrix, which consists of lawyers doing pro bono work as their daily tasks. Thank you for answering. I'm sorry, Zsófia.
But also from the other side, that of course, as Stas said, that capacity-wise, maybe a bigger law firm is more reliable for those kind of clients with the pro bono work, because there is someone will always have capacity. With a smaller law firm, if you reach them at the wrong time, they might be fully booked. So that's also the.
Thank you for answering. Our final question is, what do you think, what kind of steps, career steps should one take if they want to work in the pro bono field at a big law firm? I think this question is asked from a law student perspective.
Shall I go first?
Mm-hmm.
So I think firstly, it's great that there's interest in this. I think, as I say, it's a growing sector. And I think if I was answering this question 10 years ago and you were saying, you know, would there be a job or an opportunity to do these kind of jobs? I'd say they're pretty rare. Whereas now it's really growing. And I say there's 50, roles in the UK, but that keeps growing because law firms that don't have pro bono managers are looking around and saying, oh, well, all the other firms are doing it, so there must be a reason to do it. We don't want to fall behind. So they're hiring people with teams. The people in those teams are saying they want to do more pro bono work, so they're hiring more people. So definitely in the UK, it's on an upward trajectory, and I really hope that across Europe, including Hungary, that will grow as well. So I suppose before I answer the question, it's just to say that I'm hopeful that there will be more and more of these job opportunities in the future, and as all of you aspiring lawyers, kind of progress through your careers. In terms of what you can do, I would say, number one, do as much pro bono work as possible, whether you're a law student or you're starting your career as a lawyer or you've been a lawyer for a few years. There's always opportunities to do stuff. So seek it out in your law school. If it's not available in your law school, start a program. Pro bono projects and opportunities start by someone having a good idea, and that person can definitely be you. So seek it out. Again, if you're in a law firm already, ask what are the pro bono opportunities. If there aren't any, say, well, can I set some up? Can I investigate this? To really be proactive in that. So yeah, number one, do pro bono. Number two, I would say build your network as much as possible, which I think, Zsófia, you alluded to earlier, that pro bono is a great networking tool. And the more people you get to know, the more opportunities you will have, the more people will think, if they are hiring a pro bono manager or they hear of opportunities, they'll think, oh, there was that person that I spoke to who was really nice and interested in pro bono a while ago. So I would say, anyone you meet who you think may be a way into pro bono, make sure you, reach out to them, have a chat, have a coffee. A bit harder in COVID times, so maybe a Zoom call rather than a coffee, but try and build that network as much as possible. You never know when that might come in handy. And I suppose those are kind of the two main things. But yeah, and then I suppose just try and keep it on your radar as you move through your career, as you become more busy, as other things take priority. Remember that it's always there. You can always do pro bono, and finding the time to do it is possible, even if it can be a little bit challenging at times. So I think just yeah, really, if it's something you're interested in, then really pursue it, and speak to people and do pro bono would be my main advice.
Thank you. Zsófia, do you have anything to add to that?
Maybe just one thing from a lawyer's perspective, practicing lawyer's perspective, that I would also advise to practice law besides that, because that gives you a very practical approach to things. And based on my experience, pro bono clients and charities, especially because they don't have the resources, they need very practical advice. And that's what's lacking. I know that the Hungarian legal education is not best at that, and therefore, if you want to be successful in pro bono work and efficient in pro bono work, I would certainly advise you to also do some very practical lawyering work where you learn that how to advise also from a commercial perspective a client.
So in conclusion, let us be productive regarding our pro bono work and just go with our careers. I hope I summarized it well. Thank you so much, Stas and Zsófia, for coming. And for everyone, take a look at our other events, and I hope to see you soon all in person. This was our event on pro bono work. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Anna, thanks for having us, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.